Get our guys to line up here with the cannonry, and we get these. Let's get these guys to range upon the Archduke's troops right over there. So these guns will begin to fire in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Nice graphical things about this game is that it makes the firing really rather pretty. Let's have that nice little cannon shake effect too, but unfortunately these guns, they don't do a lot of damage, and that's kind of the reason why you need to mass them. Oh, one thing that we should note is that Napoleon over here, he has, I think I talked about this a little bit, but he has this aide to him, who controls this little blimp thing, or this hot air balloon, and he's actually able to just kind of see the entirety of the battlefield because of that. Blimps were really rather useful in doing that, in that they gave commanders an overwatch of the field, so you had live information piped down, and blimps were actually continuously used until they were used until World War I. Actually, the main reason they had fighters in World War I was that, rather not fighters, but the little biplanes. I suppose they were fighters. One of the reasons that they had the whole the campaign inside that was for the purpose of shooting down blimps, actually, which were observer platforms. So, our army is mainly going to be composed of a few different types of troops. We have the light infantry, the chasseurs, at least I think this is how you pronounce them. These guys are the people that I typically use the most, and these guys are light infantry, so they're not too great in melee, so they have 11 and 7. But the good thing about them is that they can shoot fire, they can reload decently fast, they have decent amounts of ammunitions, but the good thing is that they can fire all of their guns at once. And so you might say, okay, what's so special about that? And then, well then, if you played Empire Total War, you know that for whatever reason, the people inside these lines, they have a tendency to only shoot, only the front 3 rows have a tendency to shoot. So with that said, having light infantry be able to puff a lot of bullets at the enemy, like this is really, really handy. You can just essentially overwhelm the enemy with firepower. So yeah, our front lines will typically be made up of them. And in the other columns, it will be typically fusiliers behind them, and then followed by regular troopers. Yeah, this will lay down quite a lot of yeah, that'll be a really deadly barrage, simply because you can cut down the enemy's lines really rather easily with fusiliers, and they constantly fire barrages too. Now, as opposed to these Austrian guys, these guys are going to fire their shots off one at a time in line formation. So yeah, they're going to do this thing, fire off a round, and they also have a really lengthy reload compared to these guys. So the brawl is going to happen. There's going to be a lot of dust inside the battles here. Send in our units just like that. And on the left here, these chasseurs, they can last quite a long time in melee, so I'm not too worried about that. But the thing that we should note is that we want to save manpower, so I'm going to send in the conscripts here in a massed wave attack to just try to stifle off these Austrians. At the time, I mean, infantry was really broken down into 3 different groups. You had the shock infantry, which are typically grenadiers. You had the regular line infantry called the fusiliers, or the fusilier line. You had the light infantry, and what I'm moving up here now is the voltigeurs, and these guys are skirmish infantry, so they'd fight normally in front of everyone else, and they would essentially try to pick off the enemies as skirmishers and really try to nick the enemies. They were essentially marksmen. Muskets and rifles at the time weren't exactly accurate weaponry. The thing that I dislike about Total War games in general is that you really have to be rather accurate with the elevations. The game doesn't do elevations, so what you might have happen is that you have guys shooting into the side of a hill simply because they don't know because they don't have that range there. You know what, here's what we'll do. These guys assemble right there, and then they'll fire. Yeah, typically I don't like to give the attack order inside Total War games, and I think you guys might have noticed that when we played Rome Total War 2. So yeah, battles will continue like this. Our guys are just stomping them with tons and tons of rounds. get our guys to move forward here. Should probably run. And yeah, inside this game, if you play with the Cheshires, smoke is just going to like come all over the battlefield. There we go. Now we're getting some back shots into these guys. And if you smack a routed force with one of your armed forces, right, you get this mass brawl happen, and what this will do is that it'll actually just eviscerate the fleeing troop, which is rather nice. So over here, let's try to win this battle now. Charge these guys in right there. Get these guys to assemble. And I've got to say, like, inside this game, I love the forest battles, simply because going through the terrain is just so pretty. These guys can actually assemble on the flank here and try to pick off these Archduke legions. Yeah, the nice thing about the conscript battalions is that you can just charge them in, and because they have 500 men, no matter how badly they start to lose, you always have more of them to throw into the fight. And over here, the Cheshire line needs some help, so we'll get our army and we'll deploy like this. Ooh, what's happening here? Alright, so the skirmishers are starting to nick them inside the flanks here. And in the meantime, the French conscripts are putting pressure onto these guys. There we go, so another round on the side. If you guys haven't realized already, I mainly play the battles for the climatic effects, the cinematic effects. So yeah, we'll take quite a lot of casualties, but I try to make the battles enjoyable in that they look nice. And that's, yeah, I think that is pretty much the end of the Austrians. Oh, no, they have militia over here. The militiamen are actually the generals' lead, so that's rather interesting. I think I'll get the general staff to actually come over here and charge them down. Didn't bring any of the cavalry up. I didn't deploy them correctly, so we're going to have to do that now. Oh, now they've broken too. Get our skirmish line to put a volley into them. These skirmishers typically have really rather good fire capability, so that's rather nice. They outrange most infantry. Alright, so one battle was fought. We lost 1,000 troops and they lost, yeah, all of theirs, so a garrison of 3,000 men. Loot this place, occupy it, and Napoleon will continue to move forward. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to grab all of the troops that we don't necessarily need to keep inside that city, and we're going to take them, and Napoleon's going to move forward just like that. One person who was alive inside this time period, who I would say is fairly important, is Karl von Clausewitz, and he was the person who wrote the book on war, which was a book heavy on military theory, and he was a Prussian man. He wasn't necessarily particularly known for his capability in battle, but he was definitely known for his document, that he wrote, which is called On War, and his document essentially details military theory for campaigns. He brought up some very important points upon how an operation should be conducted. I mean, and stuff like that. So yeah, turns are going on.
There is unused land suitable for farming in this region.
What was we talking about? I just kind of stopped mid-sentence, actually. Alright, we were talking about On War. So yeah, there was this document that was written called there was that document, and it listed some very crucial information about tactics and stuff and whatnot, which was absolutely essential to warfare following the publication. The title of this game actually kind of derives from his publication, in that what Karl von Clausewitz kind of proposed was that there were two types of warfare. You had limited campaigns where battles did not affect each other, in that the overall campaign's decision was the accumulation of the results of the battles, but the battles did not affect each other, in that whatever losses were sustained, whoever won one battle weren't necessarily the person with the advantage inside the next one. And then the second idea was of the variant of Total War, which is the fact that each and every single battle inside the campaign affects the rest of the battles that will occur, and that there is the full mobilization of the populace behind whatever force is there. So, I didn't really describe our actions on the campaign map, but as you can probably tell, I mean, what I've done here is that I've effectively marched onto the capital of Austria with our army, short of our wounded troops, and now we will try to press right through the Austrian lines and right through them and break them just like that. One of the things that Napoleon does inside this game is that on the campaign map you'll get this large summary about his traits. The important thing to note about him is that he gives you this huge morale bonus to having him on field. So with that kind of said, our troops are going to be able to hold out for almost an eternity despite suffering almost inhumane losses to our numbers. So with that kind of said, what we want to do here is we really just want to push forward and drive the enemy out of their capital as soon as possible, and that's exactly what I intend to do. And we also have our cavalry this time, so that is excellent. So get the guys moving, get them pushing forward. I'll give you guys a comparison between the French conscripts and our regular guys. So these guys, they come in packs of 500, they have a range of yada yada yada, and these are the standard Fusilier guys. Comparing one of the one rank veteran squads with like our guys right here, you'll see that the French conscripts, I mean, they have slightly lower melee attack, really worse melee defense, but for the most part, I mean, they're still fairly reliable in that their accuracy is decent, the reload skill is decent. Actually, their reload skills are right, but they really do suffer on the penalties for their charge and defense. I think all of our units have maximum morale right now, simply because they are under the command of Napoleon. Maybe not the artillery, but the vast majority of our units have full morale, simply because they're under the control of Napoleon. But later on, we'll see that the conscripts obviously have less morale. Would you look at that? Just a huge dust army right here. Yeah, this is how the Total War games should be really played. For whatever reason, I mean, for Rome Total War 2, they disabled the unit multiplier, so you used to be able to make like thousands and thousands of troops appear like this just by editing a file inside the game files, right? But they disabled that feature in Rome Total War 2, and it's the exact same engine with slight improvements, so I don't know why they did that. But anyhow, yeah. Fast forward this too. We will get our Dust Bowl army to move forward and take the heights. You see that little blimp thing inside the background again. Why do I always call it a blimp? It's a hot air balloon. Yeah, so our army should move right up to the coast here. There we go. One of the troops that we actually have on the field with us today is a very special unit here. We have a pack of the Old Guards with us, and these guys are actually the elite of the Napoleonic troops right here. So one of the specialities of the Napoleonic army was that they had the core of the guard troops, and these guys were essentially the best of the best. You had the young guard, the middle guard, and then finally the old guard, and these guys were typically kept inside the reserve. In reality, I think this was a group of 3,000 people, of 3,000 men, and these were the veterans of Napoleon's campaigns. You had what were essentially like 50-year-old men who were under the command of Napoleon from the very start of his career to the very end of his career at Waterloo. So yeah, I mean that was 1505 to 1805 to 1815. So yeah, 10 years under them. One thing about, like, military tradition, and that is that typically, I mean, inside the army, you were disciplined if you essentially complained about stuff, if you just kept on being a bitch, really. And one of the different things that happened in Napoleon's groups is that because of the reputation of the old guards over here, these guys were known as the Grog Guards, which were the complainers, the people who wouldn't stop complaining, and they had the justification in that they've been through well, at least some of the troops have been through Egypt, back to Europe, to just everywhere over the course of Napoleon's campaigns, so they were effectively given that privilege. Typically, I mean, Napoleon treated his he treated his regular infantry pretty badly, but that wasn't really different from any of the other troops on Europe at the time. But the people inside his cavalry, inside the skirmish lines, and inside the guard troops really had a lot of privileges that other troops just simply didn't. So right now, the Austrians have been nice enough to let us set up, so that's nice. Get these cannons to move up here onto this hill, and what I want to do here is that we're going to fight a fairly odd battle, in my opinion, in that we're going to fight a gun battle up here on top of these heights. I want our infantry deployed. Oh crap, we actually have too many men. I want our infantry deployed on the slopes just like that below the cannonry. And we want our troops to be effectively deployed right now. Get the skirmish line set up. And we'll begin the siege here, nice and proper. Oh, we also have some National Guard. Yeah, the French had the French people at the time were really, really inspired by Napoleon, so their militiamen have a different title inside this game as opposed to like the generic ones present. And theirs are the National Guard. They're slightly better militiamen. They're actually surprisingly dependable inside the early game, so that's kind of why I'm sending them to protect our flanks. But yeah, our artillery ranks here will just continuously fire barrage after barrage. Our guys are going to assemble here, and what I plan on doing inside this battle is that we're going to try to harass, take down the AI's cannonry right here, and from there we'll mobilize and press forward like that. The one feature that I miss from Rome Total War II is the battle cam, though, the strategic overlay. Yeah, managing groups of 160 people isn't difficult. Managing these groups is hard, though. Their army isn't doing anything right now. The AI doesn't seem to be reacting, so we have some time to set up for an advance. Get our guys to sandwich in here a little bit more, and from here we can then press forward. Cannonry over. Yeah, the cannoneers, the artillerymen inside this game have what I like to call arma infantryman vision, where they are effectively they'll be able to effectively shoot through trees and like over hills and stuff like that really rather easily. So I'm not too worried if there's something blocking our line of sight. And the AI is finally reacting, so that is good. Alright, so we managed to take the high ground inside this battle. The enemy, however, is starting to show us, so that's a good thing, I guess. They're starting to react. I mean, we have the high ground, and all I want to do is I want to get the Austrians to react to us. There's no point in charging them. Granted that it might, finish the battles faster, but for these large-scale